Up next, Fandango announced that Wicked pre-sales, which went live last week for the November 22nd release, are only second this year behind pre-sales for Deadpool and Wolverine. This also puts Wicked at the highest for advanced ticket sales this year for a PG-rated movie and the third of all time in that category. Standing up against Disney films Frozen 2 and 2019's The Lion King. In the box office race this year, Disney seems to be king of Cinderella's castle, but does Warner Brothers have a chance to make a run against the entertainment titan?
Yeah, Wicked is not messing around. I mean, going out and claiming this sort of title with pre-sales, I personally am a little bit surprised by. I kind of expected to be the It movie of Thanksgiving to be Gladiator 2, which opens the same day as Wicked. And we've talked on this podcast before about the potential for another Barbenheimer situation, and I think Hollywood is eyeing that too. I think they haven't quite figured out the recipe for a Barbenheimer situation. But I think there is a very tentative attempt to recreate the situation that was that. And again, it's tricky because you can't outright say you're doing a Barbenheimer because we as the people will punish you. It's like whenever you put Morbius back in theaters and we punished you, we will do the same if you try to reenact Barbenheimer because that was our thing, that was not your thing. And that's the trick. You have to make it believe that it was our idea. It's like an Inception situation. You have to implant the memory into us and then the Barbenheimer happens. But ultimately, it shows us that there's a healthy box office, that people want to go see this. It's a musical. And those are kind of tricky at the box office sometimes. They don't always have great returns. And it's going off of something that has a fandom, like people like the Broadway performance, but will they show up for that on screen? Like that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other jump you have to make. So it's got those types of things that it's got to go around, which is why at the beginning I thought, okay, this will do fine, but I didn't really see it as being like up there in terms of like your top 5 or whatever of the year in terms of the box office. But now I'm not so sure. Like we're kind of seeing that maybe families are choosing this one for Thanksgiving for that week. And I think if you're Paramount and you're releasing Gladiator 2, you're a little bit nervous about this. You're looking at your own pre-sales for Gladiator 2 and saying maybe there isn't as much appetite for this as we thought originally, and maybe the appetite is there for this other product. But what I think is great about what Wicked is doing and why I think that this is happening is because they are doing the marketing that Barbie did. So if you remember back when Barbie was leading up to Barbie, we were talking about it every week because they had these like weird marketing stunts. Like they had the Airbnb that was a Barbie house, and we talked about that. And then they were releasing clothing lines and makeup lines and all these products. And so you saw the TV spots and the trailers, and those are effective. But really, it was the other stuff. It was the this is an experience stuff that was really starting to get drummed up behind the scenes. And so when that movie hit, we talked about it at length. Like, it was an experience. You had to be there. It was a party. If you didn't come, you were going to miss it. And so people came. They went to the theater and they saw it. And I think Wicked is following a very similar playbook. If you go look at the merchandise around Wicked right now, it's all over the place and it's great. Like they have clothing, they have like a whole shoe line, there's like a whole makeup line. It all leans into like the green and the pink sort of like dichotomy of the two characters. Like it's very artfully designed. And so you have that type of push. And I feel like that's the key. It's like setting the board. Like people are starting to see the merch. They're getting interested in, hey, this is a party. This is like the Taylor Swift Eras tour in the theater, or the Barbenheimer in the theater, or whatever, where if you're not there, you miss the party, you know? And so to me, it's clearly paying off, and I just see a lot of similarities here between what Barbie was able to do and what this film can do. It's really working on drumming up its crowd through merchandising, because I'll be honest, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of trailers for this on TV. I've seen some, for sure. Like I see some TV spots here and there, but I feel like I've seen very little in terms of like marketing for this movie on the screen, but I've seen a lot of it in the merchandise. But I don't know, I think that might be better, you know? So it's a really interesting case in marketing. And I think when we finally do get to talk about this box office, Gladiator 2 and Wicked, it's going to be a really interesting conversation, right? And I think we hope that they both do well and that we just sort of see that Barbenheimer kind of rising tides lift all boats situation. But I don't know. I think if you're Paramount, you're kind of a little nervous that maybe this is going to steal your thunder a little bit.
I just don't see it. I don't see a movie about like witches going off to school being like popular ever. You know, it's never happened before.
Glenda knows about like popular.
There's no history for it, so
there's just no track record for this kind of thing, and I just don't see it. That's my take. No, I mean, I'm excited for this. I saw Wicked live on stage when it came through here and through town, and it's great. Great musical, and yeah, I like Ariana Grande a lot, so I think I'm excited for this. Just really pumped, and the fact that it got so many pre-sales makes total sense to me. I think for some reason, you know, when the original Gladiator came out, there weren't as many movies going through the pipeline. I think that movie had a little bit of time to be known as a movie that like appealed to a broader audience. It feels, I don't know that, I definitely think that people who really love the old Gladiator will probably go see the new one, but I don't know that it's going to have the same like appeal across the spectrum as the old one did. Like I just remember Gladiator when I was in high school or whatever. That movie was just, everyone liked it and everyone was going to see it multiple times. It's really popular back then. But I don't know. So yeah, this will be really interesting to watch and see if they can pull off you go dressed as a gladiator and a witch. Go as your favorite, you know, whatever.
I think in the race of Wicked against Gladiator 2, Wicked's going to come out on top by a mile and then some, and then you'll float off in a little bubble like Glinda. Mm-hmm. And Jay, you're right. The marketing isn't on your television screens. It's on social media. Like, Wicked is all over my algorithm because, of course it is, for one reason, but because I'm talking about it, like, with my friends, and they're doing really smart short content dropping, like we were talking about earlier, with the interviews from the cast. They're doing Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo as a pair. They're really putting them together and doing that kind of marketing, kind of like they did with Margot and Ryan Gosling for Barbie. And then they're being sneaky, and like last Friday, I think it was, they dropped a clip of Jonathan Bailey singing part of Dancing Through Life, and people just lost their minds on the internet. And they're like, Jonathan Bailey sings? And I'm like, of course Jonathan Bailey sings. Like, but it's funny to see this like conversation that's going on social media about this movie because people are hyped AF. And yeah, the merch is crazy. My best friend texted me on Sunday and she was like, I just bought a Wicked Stanley at Target. And I was like, yes, I saw those. I'm not going to go do that, but I support you. It's crazy. They have a Stanley. Like, that's crazy. It's awesome. It looks real. And I think it looks great.
Yeah, for sure.
Aesthetically, I'm still not fully on the Ariana train, but she has such a huge following from people that I think that's helping the momentum of this movie a lot. And then it's surrounded by this really strong cast of people who can hold their own in a movie like this. And so Wicked resurgence, because when that musical came out in 2005, I think, oh my God, it was like just everything. If you were a theater kid, that Wicked was it on a stick, basically. So now enough time has gone by, it's been almost 20 years, that this movie is really tapping into that nostalgia we were talking about earlier with people our age who are millennials who grew up with it and now want to go see it for themselves or with their families, and Thanksgiving's the perfect time to do that.
Well, it's not only tapping into that generation's nostalgia, but the generation who knows the original Wizard of Oz, you know?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, you know, it's
iconography.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen Wicked, so I'm the uncultured swine here. I apologize. So, with that in mind,
you haven't seen Lilo and Stitch. You haven't seen Wicked. You haven't seen Freaky Friday.
I have seen Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, okay, I got the wires crossed. Sorry.
But you got your uncultured swines crossed.
In terms of this discussion we're having about the marketing and what kind of presence it has, as far as my algorithm and my feed goes, I have not seen as much of the marketing, but that kind of stands to reason. never seen the movie, not talking about it all that much. But I did get my first taste of marketing outside of the trailers when I went to the theater this weekend to see Saturday Night. AMC, they're doing their, you know how they always have some kind of promotional thing about turn off your phone. Theirs is all Wicked themed. So you have Jeff Goldblum as the wizard. No texting, no talking, no taking phone calls. It was pretty great. But looking at these pre-sales, and they are impressive pre-sales, it does make me question, what is the overall story of this movie going to be? Because it has the potential of opening like some of the MCU movies, where it opening weekend, it does gangbusters and it just kind of drops off because everybody that was interested saw it that first weekend. But the difference there is musicals always get a lot of repeat viewings. Like you look at things like Les Mis, The Greatest Showman. Well, I think I don't know Les Mis's opening off the top of my head, but I know Greatest Showman in particular was definitely one where it won its money back in the weeks and months as it clawed and stayed so popular. So I think it's really going to come down to how well the songs are adapted, how much people enjoy them and want to sing along and have those repeat viewings and stuff like that. But I am a little concerned as well, because we're talking about all this marketing. As far as I know, this is still a part 1, and that has not been broadcast in any of this marketing. Wow. So I do think they have the potential of disappointing and maybe even irritating some people, because that, you know, as much as Across the Spider-Verse was lauded, there were people that were a little upset. Like they went into it not knowing that it was going to be a cliffhanger, and we still don't know when that second part, or the third part's coming out rather. So the other part here, my source is Wikipedia, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but I'm looking at the runtime, 160 minutes. That's 2 hours and 40 minutes. If that's true, I don't know how much it's going to be able to have repeat viewings. Like that's a long movie. There's only going to have so many screenings that they can do. So if it's popular enough, they'll make room for it. But at the end of the day, I do think it will have a higher opening than Gladiator, but I'll be curious to see in the long run, as far as box office and even awards contention, who we'll be talking about, you know, at the end of the year and early next year.
Yeah, Thanksgiving is such like a strange time too on our story of the year in the box office, because like, I mean, I grew up going to movies on Thanksgiving night and the day after Thanksgiving, like Black Friday and all of that, and I think a lot of people did. That was you know, releasing movies on Thanksgiving, like it's a family thing. Like you go out with maybe your family or maybe a couple of your friends, or like if you're a teenager with your parents or whatever, like, and seeing a movie. Like that was something I grew up doing, and I know a lot of people are in that same boat. And so I think you got two very different choices here. You know, you got this, they're both similar because they both have the nostalgia draw. Like Gladiator, I mean, that movie came out like 20 years ago, you know, like it's been a while, but there's that nostalgia pool. I can just see like a lot of dads on Thanksgiving who are in their like 40s and 50s just being like getting people together, like, oh, you've never seen Gladiator? Like my kid's 18, 19, 20 years old now, like I want to introduce them to this and take them to Gladiator too. But same thing, like I can see so many people who like Ariana Grande. I mean, she's like a cultural icon. I mean, she's a draw. Like she's going to get people out. And so I can see like groups of people wanting to go see that. So it's just, again, though, it's that question, what one do you need to see first? Like, what's the event? I just feel like Wicked's the event. Like, I feel like people are going to want to go for the event. People are going to see Gladiator too. I think it'll have a fine box office. But to me, it does sort of feel a little bit like a maybe second weekend, maybe third weekend, maybe type thing, not in the same vein as maybe Wicked is sort of a, we've been building up to this, we've been following this, like you said, Haley, we've been pelted in our algorithms with it for a long time, and we want to join in on that conversation. I don't know if you're really getting the same sort of content and lead up with Gladiator. So again, it's a fascinating just duality here of two movies and strategy, and will it help both? Will it hurt one? You know, what happens with that? We've seen examples of both. We've seen examples of movies hurting each other, and we've seen examples like Barbenheimer of them helping each other. So it's just it's an interesting case study.
I could see Wicked having a lot of staying power, first because of its PG rating, but like they're releasing it late enough in the year that, okay, so when Haley was in high school and Hairspray came out with Zac Efron and John Travolta and Nikki Blonsky, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. And I went to see it 5 times in theaters, like, because they're releasing it so late in the year when students will be out of school, you know, not too long into December after this movie comes out. I think there will be a lot of repeat viewings then during the holiday season. And Gladiator, I think, will have some staying power, but I think the reception for that initial trailer for it, unfortunately, fell kind of flat. So I don't know if they're revamping their marketing, but I feel like I haven't really seen anything since then.
Shouldn't have used Kanye.
Yeah, people hated the Kanye song.
They really did.
I am shocked at the 2 hours and 40-minute runtime, if that's accurate. I'm seeing that too online, but it just says from a recent update. So I don't know if I'm hoping that's not accurate, because the play runtime is 2 hours and 45 minutes. So if they're taking a 2 hour and 45 minute play and breaking it into 2-3 hour movies, it's like, oh, this is Hobbit territory.
Again, I'm not overly familiar with the story of Wicked. I mean, I've had enough exposure to it over the years that I get an idea, but from what I understand is the 2-film goal here is to incorporate more elements from the Wizard of Oz for the more casual audience to be like, oh, Dorothy, Scarecrow, yada, yada.
Well, and probably from the book version of Wicked, which is what it's based off of.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, I could definitely see it, and I could see like a more rich world being built than just the more streamlined musical, but like, yeah, I don't know. Like you said, I didn't even know it was a part 1. I'd forgotten that until you mentioned it a minute ago. Whew. How was Saturday night?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I wonder how it'll land with general audiences, though, like especially those. Like, I'm not even a diehard SNL fan, but I still appreciated it for the performances. Like, Dylan O'Brien is doing legendary work as Dan Aykroyd. I think his name is Corey Michael Smith as Chevy Chase is inspired. So I got a kick out of it for that sense. And the narrative structure is pretty unique as well. It's like all of the frantic and fervor that happens as they make it to 11:30 for that first live show. Mm-hmm. So it was a good time.
Yeah. It looks really good. I really want to make it out to it.